Hi everyone, it's Leilani. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be starting on my Week in the Life album for 2022. So as you can see, I actually already started the album off camera, and that was basically because I wanted to just experiment with Monday and see what I even wanted to do this year for Week in the Life, see if everything would kind of work out the way that I was hoping, all of that kind of stuff. And then I figured I would continue and share with you guys how I do Tuesday through Sunday. So it's going to be in two parts. So this is the first video where we will be working on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So as you can see, I'm using a Heidi Swapp Storyline Chapters, just the regular sized album. But what I did was I started to take a few of the pages out of the album, and then I ended up going ahead and I just took apart the album. So I took apart the binding in the middle of the album, which it's like stitched together basically. So I took that apart, only kept in the amount of pages that I needed for the week. So this album will only include enough pages for Monday through Sunday. And then I did add in a few other little bits and pieces to kind of create my own traveler's notebook kind of thing. I didn't want it to get too bulky or too difficult for me to work out of. So I only added two, excuse me, two of the Citrus Twist pocket pages that have the 2x2 squares. I taped two of those together and I added those in. And then I also added in a couple of these tags. As you can see, this tag is kind of in the middle of the album. So part of the tag is over here on Tuesday, and then part of it I think will be a part of Friday or something like that. So I hope that makes sense. I basically just disassembled the album and then put it back together the way that I wanted to do it. But then you will see as we work on this that I'll still add a few other kind of interactive bits, other tags and things like that, where I'll just tuck them behind photos and kind of make it work in that way. So this day that we're working on is Tuesday. So my kind of formula that I'm doing for this album is on the left side, I'm choosing one photo to be my main large photo. So I'm printing that off as basically a 7x9. I always print mine a little bit bigger, like a 7.3 by 9.3, just so I have a little wiggle room to kind of crop it down once it's printed. But it's basically a 7x9. So I'm choosing one photo. When I was first starting, I thought that I was going to do a photo of myself in some way for each of the large photos, but that doesn't end up continuing as the week goes on. I kind of started to lose my momentum a little bit for taking photos by the time I got to about Friday. So I kind of fell off a little bit with that, but it all works out good enough. So anyways, I have one large photo on the left side, and then on the right side, I'm doing a kind of grid style collage kind of thing of 9 other photos from the day. So just any little pictures that I ended up taking. So over here on Tuesday, I have a picture of our house. I have a couple of the meals that I ate. I have Will's hand while he's playing Wordle, because every day we play Wordle together, and we actually have a group chat with friends. So we all get together and Wordle. A couple pictures of Penny being cute, a little screenshot of the weather because it's been very hot, the cats hanging out outside, and then also my little workout video that I did. So just lots of pictures. I'm just trying to get kind of bits and pieces, little snippets of our life. And then I am just writing a little bit of journaling, basically the who, what, where, when, why, more than feelings. And I'm just writing it down in my notes app and then printing it off on my computer. So I decided that every day I would use some sort of a tag, and that is what I would add my journaling onto. So that's what I did there. And then I'm just adding a bit of embellishing here. You'll see that I did stamp my title out for Tuesday. I've added the date at the bottom, and I'm adding in a few little stars. Now also, whenever I was working on this, after I stamped it, I realized that all of my photos were just up way too high. I really want them down a little bit. I like where I stamp the title, but I don't like that the photos are like directly underneath the title like that. So actually, off camera, as I kept staring at it, I end up just very gently pulling off each photo and moving them down just a little bit. So I do end up just re-putting on those stars, and I restamp my date. So if you notice it looks a little bit different later when you see it, that's why. I just kind of moved everything down just a little bit. If you notice Monday, it just looks a little bit better, like spaced than Tuesday did. So I changed that here after a while. So now I knew that also on the page with the large photo, I wanted to just use one of my circle punches and punch out a circle for each day, and then use that same December daily stamp set from Allie Edwards here. It's really old. I've had it a long time, but I just love the size of these numbers, and I'm just kind of counting out the dates. So I'm doing 1 through 7 and adding those in for each day as well. So I am keeping with some sort of a formula. But I wanted to do my album in a different way. So basically, in 2020, I kind of did the Allie Edwards approach to Week in the Life, and I took a lot of pictures, did a lot of journaling, and put it in an entire 6x8 album. And I did have a lot of fun whenever I was working on it, but afterwards, it just doesn't feel super like a me album. I feel like I was just very inspired by the community and by all of these kind of typical Week in the Life albums. And although I adore them when other people do them so much, for me, I just felt like it didn't really work out as good as I would normally. Like it just didn't work out as something that I like to look back on, I guess is what I should say. I'm not super interested in the album anymore. I'm happy that I did it. It was in 2020, so there's a lot of great journaling about the pandemic and all of that, but it's just not something that I'm really inspired by, I guess I should say. So then last year, 2021, I did a really simplistic approach, which was quite similar to this. I did put it in a Storyline Chapters album, although it was just kind of random pages in that album. But I did kind of the smaller photos in the grid style, and kind of just did currently type info about each day. And I really enjoyed working on Week in the Life like that. I liked taking a deep dive into my week, but also keeping it super simple and not having to really devote so much time to it and all of that. So this time I kind of met in the middle. I did a little bit more journaling. I did put it in its own album, but I kind of kept with that easygoing grid style and kind of just had fun with it. I just wanted to use this Color Fresh collection from Heidi Swapp. I didn't want to have to think about it a whole lot. I just wanted to enjoy taking a few extra pictures from the week, writing out a little bit of journaling, and just working on a project basically. So I am really liking the way that it's turned out so far. So now we're moving on to Wednesday. So this one for my large photo, I randomly snapped this picture of me and Will. He was beside me at one point when we were by the bathroom, and I was like, oh, look, we match, because he always wears these kind of green, just solid green shirts, and we have one of them that is a little bit smaller. So I've kind of taken over that shirt and I wear it for like a night shirt. So we were both wearing almost matching green shirts. So I thought that it would be funny to take a quick mirror selfie of both of us on this day while we were hanging out. So Wednesday Tuesday was kind of a typical day where Will had to go in to work, and like I said, I just had a few pictures of different things from around the house. But Wednesday ended up being kind of a special surprise day because Will had a cancellation, a tattoo cancellation, so he was actually able to stay home that day. So it was really fun, and we got to spend a lot of time together. So I was really glad that I got to like incorporate Will into this spread. So once again, I'm doing the same kind of thing. I'm just adding on all of my photos, and I'm going to stamp Wednesday to the top. So my pictures this day are, I took another mirror selfie of myself because I wasn't sure which picture I wanted to be the large photo. I also have a picture of some of our pets, of our dog Poppy, I have pictures of some of the food that we ate. Will made us a quiche. I cleaned up the kitchen, so I took a picture of our dining table. We watered our plants. We watched Obi-Wan Kenobi. I put on like a foot mask thing on my feet, so that's what that picture's of. So just lots of little things that went on during the day. So now I'm about to start my stamping, and right here, after I stamped the E, I'm like, oh my goodness, I stamped the wrong stamp set. So I had two smaller stamp sets sitting beside me, and I used the wrong one. So I decide to just roll with it, and I end up stamping out the rest of Wednesday. And although I really like the way that it looks, there's nothing wrong with it. At the end, I do decide to restamp it. So at this point, I'm kind of sitting on it, trying to figure out what I want to do about my mistake. So I go ahead and add in all of the little bits and pieces for embellishing that I was planning on doing. And then you'll see how I kind of correct this mistake here in a few minutes. So as far as my embellishments, I just have kind of a lot of random stuff. So like I said, I'm using the Color Fresh collection from Heidi Swapp. Then I also have a lot of Pink Fresh embellishments, some of the cardstock stickers and the puffy stickers, and they're all quite random, just old things that I just have in my stash, but they work out so well for this type of documenting. Then the W, and if you notice, I've also used some puffies that have the day of the week. I'm using those on the left side. Those are from Feed Your Craft, so I got them in December before their shop closed, and I've just kind of been holding on to them, so they worked out really well for Week in the Life. So here I have this large tag that I'll be putting my journaling on, so I just wanted to add a little embellishment here to the front of it. So I kind of decide on a chipboard with a tiny word. And then I have just printed off my journaling, and I'll add that to the back of that tag here in a second. But before that, I'm going to fix my mistake. So I had a little bit more of this paper, so I'm just trying to cut it out so that it will match really well. And then I'm tucking it behind here, and I'm going to re-stamp Wednesday. So I feel like it ends up working out fine, but I will say this is the beginning of me running into some issues here with my Week in the Life album. So this was kind of the first big mistake that I had that was annoying, and I felt like I was able to fix it good enough, but as we go, there will be a couple other things that will happen, but it's okay. We get everything documented, and it's half of it is the fun of it. I, of course, love to look back on my albums and, see these memories from times past and years past and all of that. But a lot of it is also the fun of creating, and I've had a really good time just having a little me time, creating this album, taking the pictures throughout the day. It's amazing all the pictures that you'll get whenever you are really concentrating on taking pictures for Week in the Life. So I really would have missed out probably on a lot of great pictures of the dogs, pictures of our food, just little moments around the house that I just would not have taken pictures of. So I'm really happy about all of it as a whole. So once again, same kind of thing, punched out my circle, and then here I lost a tiny bit of my footage, so I apologize, but all I did was adhere down that circle, and then I'm just going to cut the little piece off the top, and then we are going to work on the journaling. So, well, maybe not. Y'all, it's kind of late whenever I'm recording this, and I'm a little bit all over the place, but I wanted to get this video out, so hopefully you can follow along well enough. So I'm once again just using that stamp. I'm stamping out the number 3, going to cut that out and add that right into the circle that I've already adhered down. And then eventually, I swear, we will put down that journaling on the back of the tag, but I have not yet done it, so we'll get there. I do love this picture of me and Will. We don't take a lot of just random photos around the house when we're together. I'm the type of person where whenever I'm at home, I'm in big, kind of ugly PJs 24/7. So I'm just in leggings, usually a really oversized shirt. My hair's a mess, no makeup. I'm not a person that gets up every day and kind of gets ready. And although that's my authentic self and I could take pictures of myself in that way, I tend to gravitate towards taking pictures of me whenever I am more like put together, at least somewhat. So most of the time, whenever I do take pictures of me and Will, it's more whenever we have a date day or have something like that going on. So I am really happy to every now and then spice it up and have these more like real life type photos, which Week in the Life is really great for. So I finished my little embellishment cluster up there, and then ta-da, finally we are adding in the journaling. So I will say that the journaling is not absolutely straight whenever I cut this out, but I just leave it. It's just slightly off, but it's just one of those things. I always say it is a handmade with love project and everything is not going to be perfect. So if you can tell, it's just a hair off, but I just leave it and we move on. At least the journaling's there and it's good to go. So here I'm going to add 2 tiny words just because I didn't have as much journaling on this one and I wanted to fill in the space just a little bit more. But then just like that, we have Wednesday completed. So then we're going to work on Thursday, and I cut some of this out because it just goes on and on, but I will say that I ran into a couple issues at this point. So first off, I decided to print off my large photo. This is our living room. So I printed that off, adhered that down. We're all good. So I did have a little bit of like ephemera from this day because me and my mom went to the library on Thursday. So I had this little pamphlet from the library and I also had a receipt of our books and when they were due. So I thought that I would add those into the layout in some way. So I had this little brown pocket. And so I thought that I would add it in. So I'm doing that same technique, which I'm sure you've seen many times. I'm just basically folding one side and I'm going to tuck that folded side in under the photo, and then it will look basically like it is in the binding of the album, even though it's just tucked right behind the photo. So that's a great, really simple, easy way to add things into albums like this and to not have to like bulk up the binding very much. So all of this has worked out great. Love it. It's wonderful. But the only thing that was kind of bugging me here were the really huge staples that you could see from where I stapled. I have a long arm stapler. So after I kind of reconstructed the album, I just used my long arm stapler to staple the middle. But I didn't love the way the staples looked. So my bright idea was to, instead of just filling out the right side of the page with a piece of pattern paper, I decided to make it a little bit bigger. As you can see, I folded it with my bone folder and then I tucked it behind that photo so that basically you would not be able to see the spine anymore. You would just be able to see a little tiny bit of the paper. And it really worked out really great. You can see, you cannot see the staples anymore. I was like, wow, I'm a genius. But then what ended up happening is it ended up kind of blowing out the spine over on Tuesday. So what I ended up doing, I had the camera off for a while and I was trying to figure out what to do. You could kind of see the staples on Tuesday basically at this point. So I just added in, I had some washi that really matched the paper pretty well. So I added in the washi over on Tuesday onto the spine as best that I could and tried to adhere that down. And I think it worked out for the most part. It's not my absolute favorite solution, but I didn't want to keep messing with it because I didn't want my entire traveler's notebook to fall apart, basically. So I just decided to keep well enough alone, try to fix it as best I could, and move on. So that's what I did. And I don't really think that anyone would super be able to tell unless they were really looking close and trying to critique my album. So no one's going to be doing that. Honestly, no one will probably see this album except me. So it's okay. Sometimes you just have to let it go. Tell yourself that it is fine. Everything's not going to be perfect. I know a lot of us want everything to be perfect. And honestly, I am not a perfectionist in any sense of the word. So the majority of these things do not bother me whatsoever. But for some reason, those staples and just like the integrity of holding my album together was kind of bothering me. But it is what it is. It is together. It's not going to fall apart and it's totally fine. So everything worked out. Now I am adding in all of my smaller photos. So all of the little pictures I printed off just as a 2x2 square. So I just thought that that is a nice size. You can still see everything well, but it's not too big or too small. So for this day, I just have a few random photos here. I have a couple pictures from the library. Like I said, I went with my mom. We also got drinks from Taco Bell on the way home, so I have a picture of that. I have a really cute picture of Penny, also of Judy, our cat outside, a bowl of cherries, a book that I was reading, scrapbooking supplies, and then lastly, that selfie of me is actually from my close friend stories over on Instagram, which I do for my Patreon. So little bits and pieces of my day there. And you'll notice, once again, the mistakes just keep coming. As I was stamping Thursday, I had a little bit of ink on my finger and I rubbed it onto the paper. It wasn't very much, but it was enough to be annoying. So I end up just covering it up with one of the tiny stars. And once again, problem solved. These things happen and it's okay. I'm mostly telling myself that, but but also I'm sure many of you can relate because it definitely happens to all of us. So now I'm just going to adhere all of these photos down. I basically just added a teeny tiny bit of adhesive there to those top 3 photos at the beginning just so I could keep them in place while I was stamping. But then I definitely put more adhesive and hold them down a little better there at the end. So once again, keeping that same formula, I add one of the pink tiny words. I'm adding the date, sprinkling on a few of these stars, and then I'll add a couple puffy stickers just like I've been doing for all of the other ones. So I really do like the way that the formula has worked. And honestly, if you guys have been around here for any amount of time, you know that I am a project completist and I like to get my things done. So at the end of Week in the Life, I want to be done with the project. And I will say this project, maybe more than most, I've just been ready to complete. I like my album a lot and I like the way things are going with it. But for some reason, I have just I'm just kind of getting burnt out here at the end, which does not typically happen to me with projects. So I'm kind of surprised, but I will say I'm kind of ready to wrap it up. And it's only today, whenever I'm recording this, it's Friday night. So I still have a couple days left, but it's just kind of one of those things. So I'm glad that I kind of kept it easy. I've only had to take 10 pictures a day, which is not that many photos really, especially if you are a crafter, a scrapbooker. If you're taking on a project like Week in the Life, a lot of people take a ton of photos. So only having to document 10 photos is not really very many. I feel like my photos don't have to be super extravagant or amazing. I'm printing the majority of them off just as 2x2 squares. I'm doing just a small amount of journaling and then really just having fun with my embellishing and trying to create this little traveler's notebook type album. So it's really been a fun experience. But like I said, I want it to be done by the time the week is over. So I'm really happy to keep it simple so that I'm not stretching this out and it will be completed and I can just add it onto my shelf. So here we're finishing up this last little bit of this layout here where we're just stamping out the 4. I'm going to cut it out, add a few little embellishments, and then we will be good to go. So you noticed also, I think I was talking, but I just cut out another tag and added my journaling to the tag and added it right into that brown bag. Originally, I was planning on cutting out a tag and slipping it behind the photo like I did on the other pages, but with the construction issues with the staples messing up and having to add the washi tape and all of that stuff, I did not want to burden the book anymore. So I just thought I'll just put the tag right into the pocket and it's all good and everything worked out just fine. And then those hearts, the layered heart embellishments are from Vicki Boutin. I think they're from the newer Sugar Rush collection. I think that's what it's called. I got those in that recent haul that I posted over here. So I had to dip into them and add them into the album as well. So I'll give you a few little close-ups here, and we are done with about half the week. So I will be back super soon in just a couple days time with the next 3 days. Let me know if you are doing Week in the Life, if you're joining in. I hope that you guys are all having an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye, y'all.